Hey, Jay here. We're out at Paula today, out with KTM testing the brand new 2019 KTM 450Sx-F, which a lot of it will be very similar to the XCF of the same model. These are the bikes that, the guys that gotta have the best, most powerful bike. These are the bikes. So we're gonna take a look at this bike right now.
Hi, I'm David O'Connor with KTM North America Media Relations Department. We're here at Fox Raceway today with Dirt Bike TV to test the 2019 SX-F 450. Alright, so as you can see on the bike, totally new generation bike. We've got new bodywork, new seat, new subframe, new exhaust system, radiators. So some of the features on the bike, we've lowered the center of mass, we've dropped the radiators, the cylinder head is reduced too, lower the center of mass. Subframe's a more compact subframe. Bodywork comes with in-mold graphics. Machine triple clamps, 2 positions. ODI lock-on grips, neck and handlebars. Of course, we have Brembo brakes, Brembo clutch cylinder, the little magic gray button, the electric start, really nice feature. Mapping, we have two positions for mapping. Number 1 is stock, number 2 is aggressive. We also have traction control, which can be turned on in number 1 or 2. Also, for when you're on your start gate, you hold down the map button, the TC button, you have launch control. So really good to get a hold shot. So the bike comes with a new transmission this year. It's a Penkel transmission. They're a supplier of high quality parts for Formula 1 teams. So really smooth gear changing this year with the Penkel transmission. Our exhaust system, all new, as you can see, totally different looks. It has a split joint right in front of the shock, which is really easy to remove for testing. Alright, so it comes with a great wheel package, CNC machined hub, Galfer wave rotors, XL rims, Dunlop MX3S tires, really good wheel package. Alright, so this bike is something that Jay doesn't normally test. He's more off-road orientated, but this bike is built pretty much on the same as our 450 XCF. A lot of the changes on this new generation have carried over to the XCF. The main difference will be gas tank. Comes with a bigger gas tank on the XCF. Will come with an 18-inch wheel. Will come with a kickstand. Little more plush kind of suspension for your off-road riding. So also check out that. It comes with our handguard stock, really nice motorcycle. So check out our XCF range too. Alright, so that's the look at the 2019. It's about to hit the track with Mike Sleeter in a minute. So go check out the video. You get all the reviews on the bike.
Okay, so we both just pulled off the track on the new 450 here, and good time. As you know, I'm not much of a 450 guy. It's been about 10 years since I've been kind of regularly riding a 450, and that was only for a little bit of time until I got knocked out a few times, tore my shoulder, and I said, no more 450s. So got to ride this bike a little bit, and I got Michael Sleeter out here, who's I've known for like 25 years, and looks better riding the bike. So we got him some footage of him riding, and he is a lot better rider than me. So I've known him a long time, and he's been testing with KTM for how long?
14 years, yeah.
So that's a long time. He's been testing, and when he tests for KTM, what that means is he goes out during the off season, and they're testing the new models coming up, and so they'll work with putting durability testing on and testing performance and gains to the bike, testing different frames, suspension. They test all kinds of stuff, and we'll do so. Like I'm sure you would always get sick of riding, I would imagine, when you testing like frames and suspension over and over.
Yeah, kind of on that note, you said on the off season, that's what separates KTM, I think, from everyone else. Is there's no off season. Those guys test 3 to 4 days a week. My passion turned into my job and my hobby, and I was very fortunate to do it with a brand like KTM for 14 years. But there's no off season. I mean, we got down to frame swaps within an hour. You know, we'd leave foot pegs in, radiators on, and Scott over in R&D and those guys, they get it down with motor swap everything in an hour. So they don't stop developing at KTM. So if you're a test rider for them, you expect to ride a ton.
That's cool. So we rode this 450. I felt like the bike was pretty amazing, and I really like the 250, 350. I'm more of a 250 guy because I feel like I can ride it harder and not get into as much trouble. And with the 350 now, the 350 has gotten so fast. To me, I think that's as much as I would ever need, but I'm still kind of leaning towards the 250. I like the air forks. I like the new bike. What do you think of this 450 right here? And I know you had a big hand in developing this thing, so what do you think of it?
This 19450 is the first 450 KTM I'd probably own now. I was, for years past, I rode the 350Sx-F because I was all over the place, 125, 252 stroke, 250F, and I just always felt more comfortable on the 350 because the older 450 motor was a little heavy for me, a little lethargic, kind of did some things that I personally didn't like. Although it did well in shootouts and whatnot, it didn't work that great for my riding style. Now, 18.5 factory edition comes out, and that was for me. And then we have the 19450, and that was some refinements from the factory edition. So if I'm buying a bike, a KTM, I'm getting the 450 KTM. I'm not going to go back to a 350 now. I'm very happy with the power delivery, the chassis setup. I've raced this bike in this trim before, as is. It's a race bike out of the box. It really is.
That's awesome. And now, what do you think of how this bike stacks up versus some of the Japanese bikes, the better ones that you've ridden in just the last little bit?
Yeah, I rode the 19450 Yamaha just recently, and the Honda, and you know what? The chromoly chassis just separates itself from everyone else, in my opinion. It has a good feel to it, so you know where your tire's at all the time. The motor has just power all the way through A to Z. I would like the motor to be a little livelier, like if I could have one thing a little more lively, ECU maybe cleaned up a little bit, but as far as chassis, there's nothing like that chromoly chassis, and the air fork I think is up near the top two and best forks out of the crate. I mean, that air stigma has been a stigma that WP and KTM have been fighting, but honestly, like I don't check it like everyone checks every time they ride. You don't need to do that. I check it, set it, and when I leave it, and if it feels different, then I'll check it. I literally leave it, and it'll fluctuate up like 0.2 bar with heat. But people overthink the air side of things, and I wouldn't personally buy any aftermarket suspension for my KTM. I would leave it in stock trim, and I go 0.2 bar up on fork pressure for me. Just I brake a little harder than where it's kind of set up for the consumer, so it gets a little divey and pitchy. But it's really what the brand stands for. It's ready to race kind of out of the crate.
Yeah, that's what I noticed. I like the air fork. I think for me, I tend to be a little bit lower pressure, so it feels a little, easier. A lot of the Japanese bikes, their first attempt at air forks got everybody really turned off against them, and now KTM has a really good air fork, so everybody thinks, but a lot of people don't think that the KTM one is as good as it is, and so we know that. Now, this isn't a KTM commercial, even though we're sitting under KTM tent here talking
KTM water, the whole
right,
bit.
the whole deal. But so you think this bike would stack up right in the top 2 or 3 in this 450 class?
Yeah, I mean, 19 is gonna be interesting. Kawi launched an all new model. Honda's obviously refining. I think what happened is KTM set the bar a couple of years ago with that factory edition, and now everyone's coming after this big orange machine. And to be a part of that movement is a real big personal thing for me. And now stepping away and doing other things and being able to ride this bike as a test rider against it, and like not against it per se. I apologize for that, but stacking it up against other OEMs, I think this is going to be in the hunt for shootouts. Like I said, there's a few things with I'd like a little better mapping. The clutch, the brake system, those are not going to be beat this year. We know that no one's got Brembo brakes. We know it. Some guys have gone to hydraulic clutch, but the brakes are hard to beat. The Pankel crank's hard to beat. This thing comes with a little bit more superior products internally than any other manufacturer. But what the other manufacturers are doing is they're working on some weaknesses maybe this bike might have with livelier engines. This bike's lighter. The other bikes I don't think are going to come with a weight. They've all copied the electric start on the KTM. People are chasing the model that KTM's built. So come early fall when these shootouts start happening, I think this is going to be the bar. I think KTM's the bar. I mean, depending on the rider, it's going to be one of the bikes to beat for sure.
Well, and you brought up some good points. This bike's about 6 or 7 pounds. We don't know for sure, but somewhere right in there, lighter than any of the other bikes. So the bike is a lot lighter than the other bikes. The Kawasaki, we said, did add hydraulic clutch this year and electric start. So those are some big features. A lot of guys really like that bike. So there's a lot of good bikes to choose from. You talked about the steel frame. And what are your thoughts? First of all, I do have to say that I would prefer the frame to be orange. Yeah, I think it would have saved me having. I like the orange frame, but
yeah, the orange frame. I do like the orange, but also I don't know. It's just I guess I saw it for so long, and it's nice to keep that factory edition, like that race theme. If you're
keep that separate.
Separate, I guess. I don't know. I don't work for the design department.
But what do you think the advantages are of having a bike that's say 6 or 7 pounds lighter than the other bikes?
Well, it's interesting though when you talk about weight. Weight is you can feel it in your hand, right? You can. When I say that, like this bike is the lightest in its class, but it might not feel that way because of power delivery. And that's when I say ECU. I'd like it to be a little quicker responsive. The 350 feels 30 pounds lighter because the power is quicker. So even though it weighs less on the scale, it doesn't always correlate to weight in your hands and the way you feel on the track. So the KTM, I wouldn't say you really feel it on the track when you're riding it. But what they've done with the weight is they've moved it around to the right spots. So the weight's put in places to help its traction and help its balance. And this bike's balance is one of its better traits. Where like, say the Kawasaki, it's quick and lively, and Honda's the same way. And even though it weighs way more, it doesn't feel that much heavier. But the weight might not be in the right spot per se. So as much as the bike is lighter, I wouldn't say I feel it so much on the track.
Now, on this bike, who do you think this bike is probably best for? Like, as far as type of riders, vet riders, beginner riders, pro riders, who do you think this bike, like out of the box, is kind of best for? What type of riders?
I would say it's the guy that wants to buy the bike and go ride and not have to worry about spending more money to have it. If that's the vet guy that has expendable income that just wants to have the best bike on the track and just go ride, this is the bike for him. If you're going to a national to race at a pro level and you want to pull hole shots and you want to have a bike that lasts 90 hours, this is the bike for you. So it's a pretty broad range in my opinion. It's got Gucci parts, and the quality controls and what KTM's done over years is unbelievable. And like I said, it sounds like a KTM commercial. I don't work for them anymore. I haven't for almost 4 months now. And I'm trying to save my pennies to possibly buy one of these. But the range of the buyer is so diverse that it really fits from the vet guy that wants to upshift it because of the torque and can ride it a gear high, it fits him. And now with this new motor, the guy that likes to rev it and more supercross developed from the Red Bull team, this fits them as well.
Well, you brought up a good point. One of the things I've learned with the KTMs as of late, even with our two-stroke, we just did a piston at 110 hours or something on our 300 two-stroke. And on these four-strokes, I've been into the shop when they tear some of these bikes down, that have 80 to 150 hours, and they don't even need a new piston yet. So it is pretty impressive that I see these things that are, and because the valves, the tolerances, the cranks, the updated transmissions, all that stuff, the quality it seems extremely high.
Yeah, that's a blessing and a curse in it too, per se, because it's a guy that likes to put stuff on his bike, they're gonna make the bike worse. Like literally, like you like if you're changing triple clamps, the R&D department does such amount of work on flex, and if you're changing skid plates and chassis pieces, you're probably gonna make it worse than what those guys put so many hours in. So really, this is one of those bikes you might want to put a different clutch cover on so the paint doesn't wear off. But literally, there's not a whole lot to do to make it exponentially better than what it comes with.
That's awesome. So we had a good time. What do you think about this? The gearing, the stock gearing for most guys?
Yeah, I think the average guy might be able to go down a tooth in the back. I personally like how aggressive it is with the stock gearing. I kind of leave it, but I think you could go down a tooth if you want to have it a little longer pull out of the turn.
Okay, so like if you're like me, I'd probably want to go down 2 teeth. So I want it to be like, I'd want to be like really smooth and easier. But it felt pretty good. I was pretty impressed. I did notice more vibration than say the small bikes, and also a little bit more decel pop. But the bike's really impressive. Just like this amazing tractor that has this pull, but didn't feel heavy at all. I felt like even if I was going through the whoops and I came up a little short on one, I felt like I was still good. So good fun bike. Now, let's get on to some, even though you didn't win a moto or anything, you can still thank some people. I know a lot of people help you getting around with your whole deal, even though you're old. So tell us what you got.
Honestly, first and foremost, I want to thank KTM for amazing 14 years of work and behind my racing program. They've kind of molded me into a guy. I kind of thank everyone that I wasn't so fast, because I got to have a job with KTM developing bikes, and 100% answer my family. Like, I had a great run as a test rider, and now I'm on to mentoring riders and doing my own thing, but I'm definitely not leaving the motocross industry anytime soon. That's for dang sure.
That's awesome. Well, it's good that we can still keep from getting real jobs, right? So I'd like to thank KTM and David and everybody for helping us out, put some time on this bike, and I don't think you can go wrong with this thing or the XCF version, which, as we mentioned, is just 18-inch rear wheel, handguards. What else you get with that? Oh, kickstand, which is very useful when you're trail riding. So you can't go wrong with the XCF version. If you're riding a lot of big open stuff, I think that'll be a great bike for you as well. So check you out. Hope to see you at the track or trail soon.